Hello and welcome. Today, we're talking about the most complex and powerful machine you will ever own, your brain. And it's the one piece of gear that doesn't come with an instruction manual. So, let's pop the hood and see how this thing actually works.
Go ahead, take a second, and try to read the text on your screen. Pretty wild, right? Your brain just unscrambled that complete jumble of letters like it was nothing. That's because it's not reading letter by letter, it's recognizing the whole word as a single concept. This is the kind of everyday magic we're going to dig into.
And that really begs the question, doesn't it? How on earth does this little organ weighing just over a kilogram pull off these incredible tricks? How does it generate our thoughts, our feelings, our entire sense of reality?
Well, to get started, we kind of have to get inside the brain's head, so to speak. And its opinion of itself is, well, let's just say it's pretty high. It's literally the only machine we know of that can study its own inner workings.
I mean, just look at these numbers. They're absolutely staggering. We're talking about 100 billion nerve cells, or neurons, and a truly mind-bending 100 trillion connections between them. To put that into perspective for you, there are more connections inside your skull than there are stars in the entire Milky Way galaxy. Just let that sink in for a second.
So here's the funny little paradox. When you sit there and think, wow, my brain is the most extraordinary machine in the universe, who's doing the thinking? Your brain is. It's basically giving itself a 5-star review. It's a self-obsessed system, and, as one source puts it, it's profoundly conceited. Okay, so it's amazing, we get it. But how did we even begin to understand it? For the longest time, we didn't even know what the basic parts were. And figuring that out, well, that's a story of a major scientific rivalry. Back in the late 19th century, you had these two big ideas clashing. On one side, you had Camillo Golgi's reticular theory, which saw the brain as one giant, continuous net, like a single mesh of wires. On the other side was Santiago Ramón y Cajal, who championed the neuron doctrine. He argued, no, the brain is made of individual, separate cells. It's not a single web, it's a city full of tiny individual workers. And this is where the story gets really juicy. So Golgi invents this incredible staining technique that lets scientists see a whole nerve cell for the very first time. But, and you just can't make this stuff up, his biggest rival, Cajal, takes that exact same stain and uses it to prove Golgi's theory was totally wrong. He could finally see the little gaps between the cells. And the best part? They had to share the Nobel Prize in 1906. Golgi actually used his acceptance speech to argue that Cajal was still wrong. Absolutely incredible. But Cajal nailed it, and his next insight was the real game changer. He realized that information in a neuron flows like a one-way street. It comes in through these branches called dendrites, travels down a long highway called the axon, and then goes out through the terminals to the next cell. This one idea established the neuron as the fundamental one-way information processor of the brain.
So we've got our building block, the neuron. Great. But how does it actually send a message? How does information travel from your toe all the way up to your brain in a flash? Well, it all comes down to electricity.
But this created a huge puzzle. Think about an old telegraph cable running under the ocean. A simple electrical pulse would just get weaker and weaker the farther it traveled, until it just fizzled out. The same thing would happen in a long nerve fiber. So the brain needed to invent a way to boost the signal along its journey.
And the solution it came up with is just beautiful. It's called the action potential. The best way to think about it is like a line of dominoes. First, tiny pumps in the neuron work like crazy to create an electrical charge. That's like setting up the dominoes. Then, when a signal comes in, it's like tipping that first one. Gates fly open, charged particles rush in, and a wave of electricity shoots down the nerve. Then, just as fast, the pumps reset everything, getting the dominoes ready for the next signal.
Okay, so we know how one little signal gets sent. But what about the big stuff, like memory? How does the brain store a lifetime of experiences? This gets us to one of the most exciting concepts in all of neuroscience, brain plasticity. The fact that the brain can literally change itself.
So first, it's helpful to know there are two main kinds of long-term memory. You've got declarative memory, which is for facts. It's knowing what. So knowing Paris is the capital of France. Then there's procedural memory, and that's for skills. It's knowing how. Like you can't really explain how to ride a bike, you just do it. And these two types are stored in totally different parts of the brain.
And we have physical, real-world proof that learning literally changes your brain structure.
For years, scientists have studied a really unique group of people to see this plasticity in action: London's famous taxi drivers.
To get their license, these drivers have to memorize what's called the knowledge. It's a ridiculously complicated map of London's 25,000 streets, and all of that intense learning causes a direct physical change in their brains. Scans show that the hippocampus, the area for spatial memory, is literally bigger in these drivers. The more they use it, the bigger it gets.
So what this proves is your brain is not some fixed object. That old idea that you're born with all the brain cells you'll ever have and it's all downhill from there, it's just wrong. Learning and new experiences forge new connections and can physically grow parts of your brain. The takeaway here is simple and it's powerful. Use it or lose it.
And all of this brings us to the future. If we understand how the brain sends signals and how it adapts, can we actually start to tap into it? Can we finally bridge that gap between mind and machine? Well, one of the greatest challenges this could help us solve is paralysis from a spinal cord injury. The brain forms the intention to move, right? But the signal can't get past the break in the spine to reach the muscles. The command is there, but the connection is just lost. And this is where the brain-machine interface comes in. The idea is to just bypass the broken connection completely. This technology listens to the brain's electrical signals, the intention to move. It decodes them, and then it uses that code to directly control an external device. It's a direct link from your thoughts to an action.
A landmark experiment showed exactly how this works. Scientists taught a monkey to control a cursor with a joystick, and all the while, they were recording the brain signals from its motor cortex. After they learned the neural pattern for the movement, they disconnected the joystick. But the monkey just kept on playing. It would simply think about moving the cursor, and those thoughts, decoded by a computer, would move a separate robotic arm. It literally learned to control the arm with its mind alone.
This incredible technology leaves us with a pretty profound final thought. As the line between our biological cells and our technology starts to blur, you have to ask, if your thoughts can directly control a machine, if a robotic arm starts to feel like it's your own, where does the concept of you end, and where does the machine begin? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.